Let's take a little trip down memory lane, shall we? And by memory lane, I mean just literally last year, the summer of 2022. If you are anywhere on the internet, you saw a lot of different memes pop up just on your feed on Twitter or on Instagram, like the My Brother in Christ meme with the Subway sandwich, Homelander reaction images, Christian Bale also showed up a whole lot with that one really particular font I see just all the time and I don't know what it's called. Wordle was popular at the time. You know, remember Wordle? You know, that funny little game where you guess what word it was and then you post it because it was a little brain game. Everybody was losing their mind over that. There was the Chris Rock slap that kind of rocked the celebrity world a little bit. But all these things aside, with the memes and even major world events happening concurrently as well, summer always needs a song. And this time, it was a hit way back from the 80s, decided to rejuvenate itself, a la the popularity of Stranger Things. And that song is Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. Seeing how this song was basically stuck in everybody's head for a good 2 or 3 months, i.e. the entirety of summer, I feel compelled to talk about it for a little bit. Namely, how you can interpret it in juxtaposition to its music video, which I am absolutely freaking in love with. Now, without further ado, I feel like I can just jump straight into this, right? Now, if you've seen the music video, you might be like, oh, this is a little bit weird. And it kind of is a weird music video, to be honest, because it just incorporates a lot of interpretive dancing. For those of you who haven't seen it, let me just set the stage for you. You're kind of in this giant empty room at first with Kate Bush and a male dancer as well, and they are both dressed in a piece of some traditional Japanese clothing called a hakama, which is just basically now reserved for a lot of like formal occasions like funerals and weddings in modern Japan. But for a long time it was pretty standard stuff. It wasn't your lounge gear like a kimono or yukata, things of that order. But you know, that sort of thing. You also would frequently see it in competitions, like in sports as well. So I feel like that is kind of telling of something as well. So there's an element of formality in the choice of these clothes, but also a choice in competition. And that's kind of an underlying theme of the whole song, is this, not necessarily competition, but there's some headbutting between two people in this relationship that are having this conversation. Now, as Kate Bush begins the first verse of the song, she introduces this idea about how she was thinking about making a deal with God. Now, obviously, it's clearly a metaphorical statement like, well, if I could do this, then yada yada yada, etc., kind of thing. And it's to kind of put in the mind of the person she's talking to that what they are doing is affecting them in a certain light, and they need to experience what they're feeling firsthand, which is why the dance partner moves from this sort of caressing, adorative pose around Kate to her stretching and trying to get away from him as she explodes into the first chorus of the song, and then even pushes him away and then begins to dance by herself for a moment before the male dancer returns and begins to dance with her. I think that I'm not like some sort of professor in dance theory, but it's very clear that the return, I think, of the male dancer signifies a willingness to cooperate with what Kate is potentially suggesting and to put his own vulnerabilities on the line as she explains to him why she would make this sort of swap happen. As we move into the second verse of the song, we kind of get confirmed that, yeah, the guy doesn't want to be hurting her, emotionally speaking. And then also Kate kind of confirms that she herself in this tussle has done her bad parts of, maybe even making him feel bad. Because, when part of the deal is obviously that they're going to swap places and see how their actions have affected one another. And they're both kind of realizing, oh, we're both kind of hurting each other in this way. In a really vague way, because it's a pop song, and, pop songs like to cast wide nets to get as many, emotions as possible underneath one umbrella. But as she's singing about that, we return to this dance motif of entanglement. Kate and this guy are constantly entangled with one another, and there's a duality to that, I think, in the sense that it's two people who feel like they are inseparable in a way, but also that they're still fighting. And the fighting element kind of comes from the fact that Kate says that there's thunder in both of our hearts. So they're deeply affectionate, but they're butting heads. As we get to the second rendition of the chorus, we see Kate run away from her male counterpart, and then he chases her down and tackles her. Get this weird fade out, and then Kate does the exact same thing to him, where they're both literally running up a road, and then Kate tackles him from behind. And then it cuts to them doing this weird arm dance thing with their hands in the air. And I feel like this little snippet really shows the development of the conversation that the two are having with one another about trying to mend their conflict. First of all, the fact that it happens twice, with both of them taking each other's position, where one time the guy tackles Kate, and then the other one, Kate tackles the guy. What it's showing is that both of them are willing to go up that hill, or up that road, literally, in this one instance, towards that deal to make, so that they can experience each other's vulnerabilities. But the fact that they're like tackling each other before they get there shows a little bit of like hesitance to like do it, because it's like, ooh, I don't want to like know how bad of a person I've been, but I need to, like they're both running away, but they're both kind of scared to make that last little extra step. And then because they're both kind of scared to take that last little extra step, that's where you get that flailing movement in the dance, right? Like it's this really subtle amount of panic. Like they both want to stay with each other because, like I said, there's an element of affection between them, and that is expressed between them with the grappling and intertwining of the limbs and all that sort of stuff. But they're panicked of losing each other, and they don't want to lose each other. Then as we get to the bridge, we frequently get to see this intertwining, basically for almost the last time, I think. And this reference to this bow and arrow pose that Kate makes. And I feel that's like, they're both aiming to get something out of that. It sounds really cheesy, but sometimes interpretations that I think can have more literal implications. They're both aiming to emotionally mature from this conversation. And then they grapple for a bit more. He kind of flips her around, crazy acrobatic stuff, before they finally separate, and Kate goes to go chase after the guy, but then she's hit with a swarm of people wearing masks of paper cutouts of the other. So I think what actually ends up happening here is like a little bit of tragedy, because the same thing happens with the other guy. They get separated. So I think what happens is basically they break up because they realize that, oh, neither of us are actually mutually happy in this, but they don't want to leave one another because Kate's clearly like upset and looking for the guy. So it's like this reluctant, hey, I love you, but we kind of suck for one another kind of dynamic. And it's just kind of, that pulls at you a little bit when you think about it. But the song kind of fades in and out of Kate looking for her lover, and then these almost flashbacky kind of cuts, because like the color's a little bit different, and the movement's a little bit different as well in terms of like the frame rate and whatnot. The editing kind of changed it, and the dancing is it's him constantly supporting her and like elevating her upwards, almost like she was reminiscing on what they used to have with one another. And then it ends with the chorus looping, as most pop songs in the 80s did. And there's a shot of Kate finally being trampled by basically a horde of herself. I don't know how else to describe that. Going down a hallway. And this shot of her and her lover making the iconic bow and arrow pose that has been punctuated frequently throughout the course of the song. And I think that's kind of the final point that she's trying to convey with this, is that they were both together in looking for a solution to the conflict that they were having with one another. They were aiming to find something. They were moving in tandem with it. But the solution to ending this conflict that they had was separation. And what ends up happening is this self-destruction of that relationship at hand, instead of some sort of mending where they both kind of hurt each other in different ways and had to separate. In conclusion, this song's a little bit more probably about just two people fighting each other and saying, hey, you need to think about how I'm feeling. But the dance on top of it paints a much more vivid picture of two people trying to work out their problems and then finding that solution, but having a tragic little breakup at the end. And I suppose that's really it for this lyrical analysis and analysis of dance. I've never analyzed dance before. Thought I'd give it a shot. If you think something different or you have a different interpretation of it, let me know. I would love to hear it. Also, in terms of letting me know about things, let me know what kind of content you want to see from me in the future. Recommend me stuff down in the comments section, and I'll do my best to do something for that in the future. Don't know how soon that'll come, but it'll come. Thank you all for watching. Please like if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it. That's perfectly fine. Tell me what you didn't like if you didn't like it, because I would like to know. I enjoy making these for you guys, and before I say goodbye, I do want to just say this is the last video that's going to be using this alligator guy for the, my little rant sona, for lack of better words. And because I have that new one, and I kind of like the new one. I resonate with that one a little bit more. I like him. So it's an end to a wonderful era, and yeah, we shall pay tribute to the end of the alligator lad. Yeah. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.